Hey everyone, and welcome to the special edition of the Explicitly Pro-Life podcast. I'm your host, Kristen Hawkins, and we have to talk. The opportunity the pro-life movement has been waiting for more than 4 decades is now here. Is now right here. And today I want to talk about the vacancy on the Supreme Court. Obviously, we are saddened by Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing. We're praying for her. We're praying for her family. But now we have to talk about what's next. And I know some of you are like, Kristen, you should not talk about what the strategy is until after she's buried and blah, 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 blah. I've heard it all. I understand that. And I actually think this is a sad situation that we are in our nation when one person retires or passes away, immediately all of Twitter, all of Washington, D.C. blows up over the issue of abortion. Why is that? Because 7 men in 1973 decided to invalidate dozens and dozens of state laws about abortion and decided to make them the ultimate arbitrators of all abortion law in the United States of America, putting the Supreme Court in a position literally to decide if millions live or die. So that's why this matters. That's why immediately after we express our condolences for the Ginsburg family, after we offer a prayer for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we immediately have to start strategizing as to what we must do in the pro-life movement to save millions of lives, because 60 million have been lost since 1973. 60 million. And I know a lot of people are like, whoa, we need to praise Ruth Bader Ginsburg and talk about all the amazing things she's done. And she was a fierce woman for whatever, broke glass ceilings. I didn't know Ruth Bader Ginsburg personally. She might have been, from all accounts I've heard, she was a wonderful mother and a wonderful friend. All I know is what she wrote. All I know is what she said. And as the sole person to sign the dissent in the 2007 Gonzalez v. Carhart case, she literally dissented to the fact the Supreme Court made partial birth abortion illegal and worried that was going to trump women's rights to their bodies. She literally defended a procedure that took scissors into the back of a child's skull, a 9-month, 8-month, 7-month child, a child who could live outside the womb. Thought a procedure that took scissors that jammed them in the back of a child's skull, then sucked their brains out while their whole body is outside their mother. Just the head of the child was still inside of the mother. Defended that type of an abortion. So no, I'm not going to call her a fierce fighter. Absolutely not. Okay, I'll bring my guest on. She might disagree with me. Mary Kate Knorr, she was the executive director of Illinois Right to Life, recently left Illinois Right to Life, and has joined our team at Students for Life Actions, our director of external relations. So Mary Kate, what did I just say that was wrong?
Nothing. I totally agree with everything you said. And I think, you and I
pay you to say that. So
you did not pay me to say that. Yeah. You and I are both Catholic. And so I think as Catholics, we can acknowledge that we are called to pray for her and her soul, and we are called to pray for her family. But at the same time, you made this point on Friday, and I think this is the key point that we really have to drive home here, which is that this seat doesn't belong to her. It belongs to the American people. And so that is absolutely critical. And, Ted Cruz said on Saturday morning that one of the first things he said was, we will have a contested election in November. It's already been contested. We will have.
There's over 190 lawsuits that have already been filed against a lot of the crazy early voting absentee ballot shenanigans that Democratic governors are trying to pull. So just
yeah. So we have to have 9 justices on the Supreme Court. We cannot find ourselves in a situation that we have a tie vote if it comes to that. And so I think that we have to be able, as an American people who care about the integrity of our elections and our government, we have to be able to say, we can respect this woman, we can pray for her, we can, in whatever way we feel called, we can be grateful that a woman was able to be on the Supreme Court, whatever that might look like for you. On the flip side of that, we also have to acknowledge that this seat belongs to the American people, and we have to fill it so that we can protect the integrity of our elections.
And this is commonplace. There's been, I think, 29 Supreme Court retirements, openings, deaths during election years, in midst of inaugurations, and that they have been filled. And so this is actually, it's different than, I saw some people saying, well, what about 2016? Well, it's actually different because 2016 you had a Democratic president and you had a Republican controlled Senate. In 2020 you have a Republican controlled Senate and a Republican president. A Republican, by the way, controlled Senate that actually won seats in 2018 after their tactics, trying to delay Judge Kavanaugh and the attacks against Judge Kavanaugh. So you can say the Republicans, love them or hate them, kind of have a mandate. This is what they were elected to do. Like, that's like the number one thing they do. Okay, putting aside Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I mean, I guess maybe we should talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and what her legacy is. Like, what do we need to talk more about her legacy? I mean, I know she's most famous in my mind for that quote that she, a few years ago in the New York Times, was quoted saying, here it is, "Frankly, I had thought that the time of Roe versus Wade was decided. There was a concern about population growth, and particularly growth in populations that we don't want to have too many of." This was like a couple of years ago she said this to the New York Times.
Yeah.
Which I think it very much shows how, abortion is steeped in eugenicism and racism, because you had a sitting member of the Supreme Court literally admit that and actually not say that was bad, which was also frightening.
Which I think is really remarkable when you consider the fact that we have this debate going on between the pro-life movement and the pro-choice movement over who's more pro-woman and who's more pro-minority, or not anti-racist, right? Like, not racist. But this is the kind of stuff that we see from the pro-choice movement over and over and over again, that it's like, how can you hear that and justify it, And I think same goes for Gonzalez versus Carhart, which is the ruling on partial birth abortion, that she was the only one to dissent that you mentioned previously. Same type of thing. How can we honestly say that this is pro-woman when this is one of the most tragic experiences that a woman could have, is something like this?
And what's interesting too is when you think about this pro-woman messaging and mantra, we saw immediately Saturday night, Elise Hogue, president of NARAL, Pro-Choice America, literally shouting at the Supreme Court that if you're a woman and you're against abortion, you're not a woman, you're just a puppet by the misogynists. They're ruling your life. I think she just published a book like a couple of months ago. I imagine there's some quotes from me in it, because she quoted me in some articles talking about it. But the whole book is like she and this ghostwriter uncovered the secret behind the pro-life movement, which is that white men rule the movement and control our boards, and people like me and Marjorie and Abby and Lila, we're just like little puppets and with little strings that they pull. I mean, this is how anti-women they are. So I actually think, Mary Kate, this is where the argument's going to be headed, and I think you all need to be prepared as we go into October, because President Trump has already pledged to nominate a justice by the end of the week, a woman. And they're already calling for the Senate to confirm. Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader, has already said they're going to vote to confirm. We're whipping votes right now on that. But I think what the argument, there's going to be two arguments that are going to be made in these confirmation hearings. One, it's going to be attack against Catholicism, because Kamala Harris, all these other senators have already started attacking Catholicism with other judicial appointments. What was the quote from, was it Feinstein? The dogma lives loudly within you. They recently went after a judge who was a member of the Knights of Columbus, like the nicest guys at your parish ever.
I think they call the Knights of Columbus a terrorist organization.
Yes, exactly. So there's going to be one attack upon Catholicism, which actually might be helpful, because I heard Catholics have been polling so great in this election. So maybe it'll make Catholics reconsider, hey, these people want to put us away, in prison for our faith. Two, this is going to be an attack on pro-life women. They're going to say she's not a woman. She might be a mom of 7 or a mom of 3, but she's not a real woman. That's exactly where they're going.
Which I just that. I mean, you want to talk about something that gets me emotional when we talk, the many topics we could talk about with regards to pro-life, it's that. Because look at the people behind the pro-abortion movement in the 60s and 70s. Who were the people running the show? Bernard Nathanson, who obviously we know had a conversion experience, but he was one of the founders of NARAL. Larry Lauder, how do you say his last name? He was another one that was a major eugenicist that really sought out. He actually wanted to and was outspoken, even more so than Margaret Sanger, about eradicating certain minority races. And so it's incredible to me to hear them suggest that the movement that you and I know is filled with passionate women who first and foremost value their own fertility and are proud of that and proud of femininity, and also love their children and love the ability to give birth to children, that they would accuse us of not being woman. To me, I will never understand that argument, and I actually think it's pitiable that look at these angry women. I mean, the one that comes to mind, you and I were both at the protests in front of the Supreme Court months ago with the Louisiana law. And Busy Phillips, I think about that video of her
when she's screaming.
Yeah. And and then you have women like you and I on the other side who are so passionate, and you have 4 kids that you deeply care about that are largely why you do what you do. And so that actually makes me emotional to hear people make such accusations of us like that, because that is the biggest lie I think I've ever heard.
Okay, incredible. So we know what some of the messaging is going to be. Let's back up, because Mary Kate, I want you to tell us a little bit about the kind of front runners, which honestly, I was talking to my husband last night. Who would want this?
Right.
Who would want this job after what they did to Brett Kavanaugh? I think President Trump might have a hard time selling this to a woman to put her family through this. Amen. Because the entire family is going to be, they're going to get death threats. I was saying just even this evening, if it comes to being the point where Vice President Pence has to come in and do a tiebreaker, there's going to be a serious threat on his life. You know it, because instantly, as soon as Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, Twitter was burn it down, shut it down. That wasn't their first inclination was not pray for Ruth Bader Ginsburg's soul, pray for her family. It was burn it down. There was a professor at the University of Waterloo in Canada, which I'm like, why do you even care, dude? You're not even American.
Canada.
Threatening to burn down the Capitol. Crazy stuff. The Screenwriter Guild president was I saw his blue check and I was like, who's this dude? And I Googled him and he was like, we're launching a nationwide strike. I'm like, what? A nationwide strike of crappy TV shows that I don't watch? I only watch The Office and Big Bang Theory and Parks and Rec on Vudu, and I already own all those. I don't need to watch TV. So it was. Yep. It was unbelievable, the instant reaction. There was that one woman at TikTok. I don't know if you saw it. You probably saw it because I shared it. And she's like, ah! And she screams in her car and she's screaming. Yep. Because a lot of pro-abortion liberals were very angry with Ruth Bader Ginsburg for not resigning back when President Obama was president. Yeah. Because I think that just showed the arrogance of the left. They just all assumed that Hillary Clinton was going to pull off a victory, and then it kind of came back to bite them. So let's talk about why the last presidential election mattered for SCOTUS, and why this election matters for SCOTUS. Because this is something, but even before Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing, you and I did a Instagram Live just last week about. Hey everyone, what's the definition of pro-life? If pro-life is anti-abortion, stop trying to usurp this movement for your own. Get your own damn word. It's so frustrating. We want a diverse group of people in our movement, so stop trying to say pro-life has to be 50 different things, because it's going to be really hard to find people who agree with all 50 things. But I think this is something that you and I have been kind of concerned about just going into this election year, of why pro-lifers need to care. Why does the election matter so much?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of points we could make with regards to what you just said. First and foremost, why should pro-lifers care? This is the election cycle of our lifetimes. I feel like every year people say that, like, this is the election cycle of our lifetimes. No, this is quite literally actually the election cycle of our lifetimes. First and foremost, we have the most pro-life, the most anti-abortion president our nation has ever had. The only president that I think would be willing to do what President Trump has done and what he has promised to do in a second term. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, right now, the fact that we have the Senate, the fact that we have the majority in the Senate and could approve a pro-life justice. I mean, like, this moment, these next few months are absolutely critical. If we don't take action now, we will potentially have missed an opportunity that we won't see for 40, 50, 60 years. So not only does this moment matter with regard
to the election of a lifetime that determines millions of lifetimes.
Amen.
That's 100%. What it says. 100%. You can love President Trump or hate President Trump. That is the reality of what we all have an obligation to vote for on November 3rd.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you've been saying. You've been saying we have to hate abortion more than we dislike a particular candidate's personality. And I think that that is going to be the key thing that is really going to drive this home with a lot of people. You know, I mean, like you mentioned, we've seen so many people talking about all these different social issues that supposedly fall into this pro-life bucket. First and foremost, pro-life, the origins of the word pro-life stand with the anti-abortion movement. Point blank, no holds barred, that is a fact. But second of all, this is the most urgent issue, even if you did compare them to the rest of the issues that fall into all these social categories. So in terms of talking about how we're going to vote, you can dislike President Trump all you want. Like, you can dislike his personality till the cows come home. I don't really care. The issue is that how much do you actually hate abortion? Do you hate abortion enough to vote for somebody that you don't like? I said to you the other day, people used to say all the time about Obama, well, I voted for Obama because I would like to have, I'd like to just sit and have a beer with the guy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, there's a lot of people I'd like to have a beer with. Would I want them to run our country? No, I wouldn't. So I think that, we have to look very seriously at the issues. And that's why the moment is absolutely critical. We will not see this moment come around again, ever, arguably ever.
No, and in 2016, there was a lot of questions about who to vote for, I think, for a lot of people's minds, because President Trump had previously labeled himself pro-choice. We weren't really sure, he had no voting record on the issue. I eventually ended up voting for him because, and I wrote an op-ed about it saying, look, even if he does absolutely nothing and he's completely lying to the pro-life movement, he'll be a lot better than Hillary Clinton, who 100% hands down, we know what she was promising. She advocated and wanted, Planned Parenthood would have just basically had an office in the West Wing. That's how tight she was. And, Cecile Richards' daughter, there was working with Hillary's campaign. There was all kinds of different connections there. Yeah. So, this election, we've been trying to say this for months, this is an important election because we know this Supreme Court opening was going to, sooner rather than later, there was going to be an opening on the Supreme Court, and President Trump would have the ability to appoint a sixth, hopefully, pro-life justice. Now, Mary Kate, I want you to answer this question, because I hear this all the time from people who don't like President Trump, who don't like Republicans, who claim to be pro-life, but then say, yeah, but we were screwed in the past. Justice Anthony Kennedy was supposed to be a pro-life justice, and then look what happened. And so therefore, because we have been screwed over, not really we, it's the babies, by the way, just when you're arguing that, when the babies have been hung out to dry here, therefore we should never have hope.
Yeah.
What's the problem? What do you see as the problem with that? Well, Republicans have lied to us in the past. They've used us in the past. They told us they're going to do this, this, and this, and they haven't done it. Therefore, I'm just not going to vote for Republicans. But I'm going to vote for a pro-abortion, candidate who's either a Democrat, or I'm going to vote third party for someone who has no chance in heck of winning.
You can look at President Trump's record and know that he prioritizes this issue. And he doesn't just prioritize it in the sense that he goes out and talks about it. He prioritizes it in the sense that he actually does something. So I worked for Carly Fiorina when she was running for president. I worked for her super PAC. And I can tell you that I hated the idea of Donald Trump becoming the nominee. And I fought like hell to avoid voting for him, like you just said. But he has proven, those of us who didn't want to vote for him and are concerned with pro-life issues, he has proven us wrong. No holds barred. He has proved us wrong. He has really done what he said he would do with regards to this issue. I mean, I could go down the list, and I think that at the end of the day, we have to look at action. It's about action. And in addition to that, I would add, it's also about the meat of the administration. Who are the people that Donald Trump is putting in positions of power in his administration? Sure. It's not people who are in cahoots with Planned Parenthood and doing, we don't have questions about these people. We know that HHS is filled with pro-life people, absolutely filled with pro-life people. And you and I know that that's where a lot of this is actually happening. I mean, we can talk about defunding Planned Parenthood. We can talk about, partial birth abortion policy and the Born Alive Protection Act. But a lot of the pro-life action that needs to happen in this country happens on a day-to-day basis in HHS, where they are actually working with people on the ground. And there are countless pro-life stories coming out of this administration of people who have fought personally to protect women from being exploited by the abortion industry in their positions in these roles. And I think that to me is one of my favorite indicators that President Trump is an authentically pro-life person. Because here's the thing, like, I love when people act like he's pandering to the pro-life community as though we're just like, we have buckets of cash that he just needs, I think we all know that that's not the reality here, he doesn't need us. He doesn't need us, but he chooses to work with us on things. He chooses to take pro-life action. And I think that's what we have to look at.
Yeah, I was actually having dinner with Mick Mulvaney, former congressman and former chief of staff for President Trump. And it was interesting because somebody at our dinner party asked, like, well, is President Trump actually pro-life, or, and it was interesting because he said, he definitely had a conversion on the campaign trail. He didn't start out saying, when he first started saying he was pro-life, he really wasn't. But he absolutely is now. And Mick had a good point of saying, go back and look at like the 2019 State of the Union address, where, when they craft a State of the Union, they figure out what issues they want to talk about. Then they have to figure out how many lines each issue gets. And some issues, get kicked out and they don't ever make it in a State of the Union. Some get a paragraph, some get, half of a sentence. And I guess when it came down to abortion was getting 2 lines. And he ended up you can tell because the White House, before the president speaks, they will give the address to all the media. So the media can be reading it along as he's saying it. But he went off script, and he's done this multiple times when it comes to abortion. And I think even sometimes the way President Trump talks about abortion, it's kind of the way a newbie pro-lifer talks about abortion. It's sometimes you're like, ooh, I really wouldn't have worded it that way. And I think that actually shows you that he's genuine in his convictions, because I know as a former newbie, as my kids who are gamers call it noobs. That's like the ultimate insult in my house, by the way. If you call somebody a noob at something, there's like tears and crying. There's like massive apologies that'd be happening. But that's kind of how noobs in the pro-life movement talk about abortion until they have had time to think about, oh, maybe I shouldn't say it that way. It might hurt a woman who's had an abortion, or maybe there's a better way that, that will get people to think about. So I actually do think his conversion has been real. So I think, hopefully we've convinced you, if you tuned into this podcast and you were like one of those people who are like, yeah, I just want to throw away my vote because it doesn't matter. It freaking matters. Like, I get more upset with pro-lifers who say it doesn't matter, nothing's ever going to change. Like, it's going to change. Mm-hmm. And the question is, what role did you have in that change, or what kind of change are we talking about here? And I think that to have that sort of cynical personality or that cynical approach, that's pretty scary. Because for me, it's kind of like an acknowledgement of maybe you don't really understand what happens in abortion. Maybe you need to go to Google. If you're one of those people who are like, oh, I'm totally pro-life, but pro-life's just one of the issues. I care about all of these other things, which are valid concerns. But, so therefore I'm going to vote for the candidate who lines up more with my other issues. I would challenge you to go and watch an abortion today. I think you go to, I don't even want to give the name of the website because the group, they're kind of mean to me, but there's a couple, you can go online, go there. You can just get a video of an abortion. They're horrific. They're absolutely horrific. And I know that if you saw that on your TV screen every night, if you saw the broken bodies of 2,500 babies on the streets, every single night, or the coffins coming out of the Planned Parenthoods every single day, you wouldn't say, oh, well, abortion's just one of the issues.
Yeah.
There would be no tolerance for that.
Yeah.
Think about that. Think about like a tragedy. It's September. Think about September 11th and the massive, massive tragedy of September 11th, 2001. More than 3,000 died. I mean, horrific. Think about the moment when you were like, I remember I was in school and the teacher turned on TV right after the first plane, or after the second plane hit the Twin Towers. And we watched those towers crumble before our eyes with people still living and breathing in them, knowing that thousands were dying before our eyes. Mm-hmm. Think about that moment. That will be forever ingrained in my mind. Think about the loss of life that happens every single day in abortion. If we saw it happening before our eyes on TV every night, there would be no way in hell we would say this is just one of the issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am pro-life. I think abortion is wrong. But I really disagree with his policy on school choice. I disagree with his immigration policy. Nothing kills more people every single day in the United States of America than abortion. I'm going to always vote for the candidate who's going to stop that. And now, friends, we actually have a chance to do it. Mm-hmm. We literally can get a 6th Supreme Court justice. We know we have 5 pro-life Supreme Court justices. The problem is one's a little bit of a wuss, and one tends to copy the other one who's a little bit of a wuss. We totally need 6 or 7 pro-life Supreme Court justices. And I think it's going to take a woman who is a pro-life woman who's willing to do the deed, send the decision of Roe and Doe back to states, and abortion on the ash heap of history, as our vice president says. It's going to take a woman. We all know women are superior gender anyway, let's just say. But I mean, like, how can you say you oppose abortion? You understand that abortion is the taking of an innocent, whole, perfect human life created in the image of our maker, and then say, I'm going to vote for the other guy.
Totally.
I'm sorry, I can go on. As you can see, I'm get really amped up looking at Facebook comments because it truly bothers me when I see pro-lifers who say things like this, because it's one thing if you don't know.
Yeah.
But it's another thing if you do know and you choose to look the other way, because that means I'm not doing my job. That's why it bothers me so much. It means I apparently am not doing my job of educating you about the horrific nature of abortion, of mobilizing you to do more. So, all right, do I miss anything in that little
No, I don't think you did. No, that was great.
I've been eating all day, and I don't know where this energy is coming from. I think Holy Spirit. Okay, so let's talk about, we've got a ton of stuff going on at Students for Life and Students for Life Action. We're going to have patch-through calls. We're going to be calling supporters and students in states to call senators. We've got our Soft the Vote activism weekends, our deployments knocking on doors. By the way, if you haven't signed up, we've got one coming up in October. We're actually paying students $200 for a weekend for your time and covering all your expenses. You can go to studentsforlifeaction.org/volunteer. Sign up for a deployment weekend, door knocking. You can also make phone calls and send text messages. We're doing it every Wednesday, every Saturday. We're trying to make 1 million voter contacts. So we need your help. If you're an adult, you can start phone calling with my mom. We're calling it the Army group, the 55 plus group. They're going to be calling Tuesday nights. My mom is the leader. I put her in charge. So you can go to studentsforlifeaction.org/army, and we'll teach you how to make calls from your computer. All the tech is there. It's super easy. And you can meet my mom and see where I got some of my crazy from. So make sure you sign up, because we've got the door knocking and the phone banking going on, because you've got to turn out the vote for this election. Because one thing we have to realize, it's not just about confirming and filling the seat. We also then have to win the presidency for the pro-life movement and win the Senate, because the pro-abortion leaders in the Senate have already vowed that if a nominee for the Supreme Court is confirmed, nominated and confirmed, what they're going to do if they win the presidency, if the abortion industry wins the presidency and Senate, they're just going to pack the court. They're going to get rid of the filibuster, and they're going to add 2 Supreme Court justices to the court, going from 9 to 11. So they can't win. So they're just going to change the rules of the game, which I actually think in looking at our nation and the future of our republic, that's actually a very scary thought, because then we're just changing the rules of the game every 4 years. And I'm getting very concerned about just the future of our nation in general when the two sides are so divided and so extreme. So we can tell that's another podcast episode for another time, but we have to win. We have to win. So we need you all to sign up and volunteer. But Mary Kate, can you walk through, I know you're doing some research today on all the different candidates that, it's kind of rumored that President Trump is interviewing, considering, because he's already said he's going to appoint a woman, which, by the way, I don't really like this whole, we have to appoint a woman. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a woman. Like, arguments don't have gender. Like, please do not give me a job simply because I'm female. Like, that is like the most insult. I don't like that at all. I think that's stupid rule. But okay, go through. But there's some incredible women on the list, so it'll be great to have them. And the political left will lose their minds because the woman who writes, I bet, the majority opinion, sending Roe to the ash heap of history, it's going to be a pro-life woman, and Elise Hogue is just, her brain is just going to like explode because she'll be so angry. So tell us who these wonderful ladies are.
Well, I got to say, though, Kristen, I'm a little relieved at the thought of not having to sit through another public hearing of a man being accused of sexual assault that he obviously
Don't put anything past them, Mary Kate. You are just begging for it to happen. I
don't know. I am personally I'll go through this list for you. I'm personally very curious to see how this plays out. I think you're dead on about them looking at her religion, because I don't know what accusation they could make of a woman. We're taking away their get out of jail free card, which is the sexual assault issue. Yep, but absolutely. Anyway.
No, absolutely. They're going to go after, and I think most of these candidates are Catholic. So yeah. I do think they will come. I mean, they've actually been coming after Catholics for multiple years. I mean, like Kamala Harris, other pro-abortion leaders have openly said that, they support legislation that would basically force doctors, nurses, anybody in the healthcare industry to have to commit or participate in abortions. And if they don't want to, they don't get a job. Right. They don't have to be hired. Like no religious exemption whatsoever. Like they literally believe if you are Catholic, if you are religious, that, and you're not willing to do things that you find to be morally reprehensible, then you have no business serving in healthcare. Like that's literally what they believe. And Kamala Harris, I think, is like the co-author of one of those bills. So, all right, sorry, just go through the list.
All right, so obviously the first one, the one that we've been hearing about for 2 years now, is Amy Coney Barrett.
I swear, I got like 50 Amy Coney Barrett texts on Friday.
I'm sure I did too.
Her mother apparently didn't know if I knew that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had died. And I was like, okay, like I'll call President Trump right now and give him my recommendation.
Right. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I think we can all agree that it would be absolutely incredible to see Amy Barrett nominated. I personally don't think it's going to be her. I think that ship is a little bit sailed already, but I mean, why do we like her? We like her because she clerked for Justice Scalia. She's well-known pro-lifer. She was obviously the one that Dianne Feinstein made the comment about the dogma lives loudly within you. So she's, devoutly Catholic. She's Chicago-based in the 7th Circuit. She's in South Bend, I think. So, she's the one that I think most pro-life conservative voices are talking about right now. Mm-hmm. The second that I think,
but she was just confirmed. It was tight. Her confirmation was tight. So it's 55-43.
It was. That's
so
true.
FYI on that.
Yeah, it was. Which I think is part of why I think that, I would assume, if it were me, I would be looking at that as President Trump and thinking like, we need a little bit safer margin there if it's going to be, if the stakes are this high, So Barbara Lagoa is the next one that we've been hearing about the last couple of days. She's in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. She's also a Catholic. She's Latina. She's Cuban, actually, from Florida. She was just confirmed in 2019 with an 80-15 margin, which is really, really, really important. Not just the margin, but also the fact that she was confirmed in 2019, because they are going to have a really hard time making arguments that they didn't make a year ago, you know? So that's really important.
A very strong case.
Yeah.
For her.
I think so too.
I actually think I was just invited to something with her not long ago. And when you started talking, I started researching. I swear I was just invited to an event with her, but keep going.
So she doesn't have much of a track record on abortion. For what it's worth, Kavanaugh didn't either. He had a little bit of a track record, but he had made some comments about Roe v. Wade that we were kind of able to pass judgment on where we thought he would land on the issue. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think I personally like to believe that the president wouldn't appoint someone that he hadn't sat down and had a personal conversation about Roe v. Wade with. That's just me, and maybe that's a dangerous assertion to make. I don't know, but so I would say she's maybe number 2 on the list in terms of pro-lifers favorites, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's the front runner with the president right now. The third option is Judge Joan Larson. She's on the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. So she was confirmed in November 2017, a 60-38 vote. So a couple of years ago, a different Senate makeup at that time. So that's kind of important. She was also a clerk for Justice Scalia. And so it's interesting how we have these Scalia clerks popping up. It's because I think we're really trying to get another Antonin Scalia type onto the court, which is really important to a lot of people. She actually delivered one of his eulogies at his funeral, which is interesting. Again, no abortion record. And I think this is one of the things, I would be curious to get your take on this, because this is one of the things that we hear from a lot of pro-lifers when talking about some of these judges is, well, we don't know where this person actually stands on abortion. And I think that people need to understand that this is actually kind of important. It's kind of important for the approval process that these people aren't on record overtly talking about their pro-life values, not because we don't want to know, but because there has to be some level of concern for the Constitution and the integrity of the process there. And I mean, I don't know. I'd be curious to hear.
We know the Democrats don't care about the integrity of the process, but whatever.
Amen to that. I don't disagree with you. My personal read on it is, as conservatives, we're held to a different standard than they are. Right?
Absolutely.
So we have to play the game, which is unfortunate. But also I think that's how we can kind of look at some of these candidates. I don't know. Maybe that's unwise of me, but I trust that the president is sitting down and having personal conversations with these people. So I don't know. She was confirmed 60-38, so that would be an interesting one.
She's from Michigan, by both of Michigan's Democratic senators. Both of Michigan's Democratic senators voted to confirm her because she's from Michigan. That's interesting. All right, what's the next one? Kate Todd? Connect this woman?
Todd, yeah. So she actually works for the White House right now. Strong ties to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the Federalist Society. So that's pretty interesting, I would say.
Future Life's board co-chairman, Leonard Leo, was the former vice president of Federalist Society for many years. He actually is kind of President Trump's Supreme Court justice consultant, as you say. So a lot of these names have been vetted by Leonard. So
that's interesting. I didn't know that. So Kate Todd reportedly helped make this list of appointees. She's helping.
Put my name in on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have to be an attorney to be on the Supreme Court? Do you have to?
I actually don't think you do. I don't know. I mean, because when they created the Supreme Court, there weren't law schools.
I mean, I assume it's like being a cardinal where you don't have to actually be a priest, right? I don't know.
All right. So the next person this was actually really interesting. I got some interesting information on her today. So tell me who the next person on the list is.
So Allison Jones is the next one.
Producer Jonas says there are no requirements for Supreme Court.
Oh, interesting. I don't know. I think that's pretty interesting.
Might as well put my name on that list while you're at it.
Yeah. We don't know where Kristen would fall on the Roe v. Wade issue. So.
Oh, there would be some pro-lifers that come out against me.
Yeah, they're like, she's not a real pro-lifer.
We did a poster a blueprint, and it was reverse Roe, end abortion, pass a legislation to restrict abortion. People are like, how dare you? You obviously don't. I'm like, oh my gosh, have you ever not, I know you've met me at the Supreme Court for that thing. But all right.
You can't win. The infighting is just the worst sometimes. So Allison Jones, she's from North Carolina. She's on the 4th Circuit, living in Virginia. At the time of her confirmation in March 2019, she was the youngest federal judge in the country. So that's kind of cool. I mean, we like to see, young women breaking, as they would say about RBG, breaking glass ceilings or whatever,
Former law clerk for Thomas.
For Clarence Thomas.
What's interesting is I had a meeting today with the former founder and CEO of Alliance Defending Freedom. She was a Blackstone fellow with ADF and actually worked at ADF.
Wow.
So, and she was on their life team.
Oh,
and
cool.
ADF doesn't hire people who aren't firm believers.
Yeah,
so
they're not. Yeah.
I'm pretty excited. I got way more excited. In fact, Alliance Defending Freedom, amazing organization. They do a lot of our legal work.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones helping us with our lawsuit, from the preborn Black Lives Matter shenanigans that happened in Washington, D.C. last month. But I think they have like 11 out of the 20 people on President Trump's list are ADF. They've had some experience with ADF in the past as an intern, as a student. So that to me, like really, really exciting to know that this is actually a really good list. So, all right. So the list, I'm happy with these candidates. Actually, there's another woman, Sarah, who is on here. She's on the short list too, I think. She's actually a former law students for life leader.
Oh,
Sarah
wow.
Biznek, I always pronounce. She was just confirmed, I think last year. We were like real quiet about it till she was confirmed, but she's also on the list as well. So how does this happen? So President Trump is going to wait until Ruth Bader Ginsburg's funeral this week. He's going to name probably Friday or Saturday, which is why we're putting the podcast out early. And then we're immediately going to go into this confirmation battle. We're going to have like a month before the election. What's the strategy going forward? What do we need to do as pro-lifers to actually get this to happen?
Oh my gosh. So we got to push these senators who are like fence sitters to do the right thing and approve whoever the nominee is.
Who are the fence sitters? I want names.
Yeah. Mitt Romney in Utah, Susan Collins, we got to hit her hard because you know what? She actually,
right?
She voted. What was that?
No, is she retiring or is she the one who's going to lose?
Oh, I think she might lose Planned Parenthood's not happy with her, but
I think she's running, but she's going to lose. They're running really hard against her because she voted for Kavanaugh.
Yeah. So maybe she'll do the right thing on her way out.
Murkowski in Alaska.
Murkowski, Joe Manchin in West Virginia. He's one of the, I think now that
poor old Joe, he keeps trying to rise up in Democratic leadership, but then the state is ridiculously pro-life because Virginia, and so he keeps getting sucked into having to vote for pro-life things. That hurts. I actually think that hurts his aspirations and his own party. So he's going to be. We need to keep Joe Manchin's phone lines very, very busy. Get down to Charleston, get to his office and visit him. Mitt Romney, if you're in Salt Lake City, get to his office. So,
Cory Gardner in Colorado.
Cory Gardner, Colorado. That's another big one. We're going to be doing a tour. We're going to do Maine, Colorado, Utah, Alaska. I mean, couldn't have picked like easy states here. Iowa and West Virginia. We'll be going all over the country with our Justice for Life tour. So what we need as pro-lifers, we need to start as soon as kind of a name is announced. We need to start calling our senators and telling them, hold the hearings, vote to confirm, right? Is that our action item?
Yeah, 100%. We just got to be working their phone lines and emailing them constantly, especially if you live in one of their states. And, I would even argue for the people who actually live in some of these states that we just mentioned, see if you can get, a meeting with one of their staff in their home districts, their home offices, because that's the stuff that really goes far, because it's one thing to hear from somebody who lives across the country. It's another thing to hear from someone who lives in your state. That's huge.
Yeah, politicians like to get reelected because they like the power thing. So they get really scared when you show up at their regional state offices. And your senators, they have multiple offices across your state where you can go and meet with their staff. And they don't usually get visitors, so they get like really antsy when they get visitors. So it's really, really good idea. Okay, so I guess let's answer some of the questions. Okay. Why, I kind of addressed this at the beginning, but I want to make sure we're very clear. Why does it matter that this candidate is nominated and confirmed now before the election? Just give us one quick reason why.
Well, first of all, there's always the chance that President Trump loses, which God forbid, we hope that's not the case, but there's always the chance. And we're looking at the most pro-abortion presidential ticket in U.S. history with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Right. So we got to get this judged through now. Second of all, there's always the chance that we lose the Senate. If we lose the Senate, we're looking at the same problem. This could create a stalemate with that we won't see any approval on a justice that that we like, basically, if we lose the Senate and wait too long to get this done. So these next 2-3 months might be the only opportunity that we have for literally decades. And as you said earlier, this will affect millions of lives moving forward. So
no pressure. I'm not gonna be sleeping tonight now. Thank you. Okay, so all right. Another thing that we've heard, well, this is unfair. In 2016, the Republicans refused to have Merrick Garland have a confirmation hearing, and it was President Obama's right to nominate him. So isn't fair? First of all, I'd just like you, if you're that person, just ask yourself, what would the Democrats do right now?
Yeah, exactly. I wish the Republicans did more of asking themselves what the Democrats would do. Yeah. Honestly, welcome to politics. Like, I don't know how to make it any simpler for you. Here's the thing. The reason they couldn't get Merrick Garland through is not because they didn't want to and had more integrity than that. It's because the Republicans were in control of the Senate at the time. Yep. So my attitude is we got to get this done. Where is there more integrity in doing what the way that things happened last time for the sake of keeping things kosher, or ending abortion in this country, ending legal abortion in this country? Like, I think there's far more integrity in the latter than in the former. So I would say, I hope to God that Republicans choose to do the right thing, because God knows they've missed enough opportunities in the past.
Yeah, it's almost like they've always been like, oh, let's play nice, let's calm it down. Right. And no, the Democrats, the pro-abortion leaders on Capitol Hill, are not playing nice. It is not about building coalitions. And in fact, and really, honestly, we could have a whole conversation about just the lack of decorum that's happened in Washington, D.C., or it used to be senators from across the aisle were friends. And they, that's not the case anymore. Like, D.C. is as polarized as our country. And I am not by any means saying this is good, because I do think that there is a coming split in America, and we already know there's a revolution happening in our streets. Like, go to any major city, you can see the boarded up windows and people screaming and shouting at you because you're, white, or they think you're Republican or whatever. Like, there's already a revolution happening in midst of our country, and that's what makes this election so important, because it's what will we choose. I mean, today the Department of Justice actually labeled parts of New York City anarchist-controlled New York City, because the police have pulled back from entire city blocks, entire neighborhoods, and people can there's literally anarchy in our streets. So if you just call me up if you still aren't convinced you should actually vote and not waste your vote this election. So, all right, what else have we missed talking about the Supreme Court? I think we've got everything. We went over the top candidates. We've kind of gone over the process, what you need to do, why you should care. I think we've given you plenty of talking points for your Facebook and Twitter fights that you're getting into with your family. You want to be nice, by the way. I think we've given you a lot of things to consider. If you came into this podcast angry with me or something I posted on Facebook, sorry, it was bound to happen. You were going to be mad at me at some point. I got people mad at me the other day because I said I like Starbucks. Come on, people. I don't like coffee, but Starbucks has this green coffee refresher, and it gives me caffeine. And that's all I've had today was my Starbucks Very Berry Hibiscus. Let me have my Very Berry Hibiscus. I don't even drink soda anymore. So, okay, everyone made fun of me for drinking Diet Mountain Dew for years, and it would kill you. So I switched over to Very Berry Hibiscus, and I was getting a bunch of flack on Instagram this weekend. So give me a break. All right, so is there anything else, Mary Kate?
Actually, I want to touch on one thing. You've mentioned a couple times, don't waste your vote. What do you think of voting third party?
I think it's wasting your vote.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
I mean, I think if you're in a state where, let's be real, if you're in California or New York State, go ahead and vote third party if that's the thing you really want to do. Mm-hmm. And you're morally convicted and you're staying up at night and you can't figure out how to sleep because you're so upset about this. But I do think it is throwing away your vote, because here's where we get all the unsubscribes. But no, I mean, the reality is, one of two candidates is going to win. Am I saying that's right? I'm not saying that's right. But I'm just saying this is the world we live in. And we have to sometimes as adults realize like there's like we have to make a decision that sometimes there isn't really a really great answer to some decisions we make as adults. Like I've had to do that several times in my life of like, I don't know. Either way, it's, you know, and I think, you know, if you're so kind of up, you know, in knots and you're upset about this, I do think you really need to consider what it is you're voting on. Because once again, going back to seeing abortion happen on your TV every day, there would be nobody. If you saw a 9/11 type of event, a horrific loss of precious human life on your TV every night, there would be no way you would say, yeah, I really want to end that, but you know, I really dislike the candidate's position on this, or I really hate his tweets. Therefore, I'm going to vote for the person who wants that to continue and, fund it with my taxpayer dollars. There would be like no discussion at all. You would say, get the heck out of my house to anyone who would say that. But because we don't see abortion, because even we, those of us who are in the pro-life movement, we forget. Mm-hmm. We forget what happens every day in abortion. Like we lose, like, remember when you first found out about abortion and the outrage you felt? Mm-hmm. Like I was not a very good, like probably pro-life advocate for the first year and a half after I found out what abortion was, because I was angry. Like you did not want to debate angry Kristen, because like there was no like discussion. I wasn't listening to your stupid comments because there is no justifying killing babies. Now I think it. I just don't say it, by the way. But I had to get a little bit more sophisticated in the way I was having conversations about abortion in order to actually convert people. Yeah. But I feel like we forget what abortion is. We say we know what abortion is. Yeah. But are we really acting like this? I don't think you are.
You know what? And I want to add something there, because I think that we fail to recognize the great the great distance that Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry has gone to keep that out of our peripheral, to keep that out of our vision. And so in the 80s, their pro-lifers used to go dumpster diving at abortion clinics, and they used to pull the babies out and give them Christian burials. And the abortion clinics figured this out. The abortion facilities figured out that this is a problem for us because they're seeing the reality of abortion. We have to stop this. They can't see it. So they started using companies like Stericycle that go and pick up the bodies as medical waste. And this shows us the great lengths they're willing to go to keep this visual away, because this visual is the ugliness of abortion. It's because the reality is ugly, right? And I think that as this election is the time for pro-lifers to return to this reality, which is abortion is ugly. The pro-life movement is not about warm fuzzies and all these other things. And we do have what the other side doesn't have. We do have joy. We do have gratitude for life. We do have love of children and all of these other things. But on the flip side of that, we have to remember that abortion is ugly, and that is why we are anti-abortion. That is why this is so important. This election cycle is abortion is ugly. It's ugly. It's ugly. It's ugly. We have to drive that home this year.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us say we're pro-life. We know intellectually what happens in abortion,
right?
But I think we've lost the emotion of what actually happens, because no one would see what happens in abortion every day on their TV screen and say, yeah, but I really hate his tweets.
Yeah.
Or he treats women like crap. Mm-hmm. He might treat women like crap. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to vote for the person who's going to stop that.
Right.
And this like myth. Can you actually, one more myth we should bust, because while we're at it, we help giving folks social media talking points here. I'm pulling it up. We actually wrote a blog, I think last week, in Students Life Action, this myth that I've heard it from people who want us to vote for Democrats, and they use it as an excuse. And they say, well, there's actually fewer abortions when Democrats are elected. Have you heard this myth before, Mary Kate?
So there's this myth that abortion funding goes down under Democratic presidents. And the reason that this came up is that another pro-life organization recently tweeted that that abortion funding, federal funding, has actually gone up under President Trump. Mm-hmm. I mean, gosh, there's a lot we could say here. I think I don't know, Kristen, where would you even begin? I think there's a lot of points.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing, we definitely need to talk about this, because we do hear a lot from people who say abortion's wrong, but then they want to use it to justify their vote. And they use this myth that, well, Democrats give more money to contraceptives, and more money to contraceptives means less abortions. Prove it.
Oh, yeah.
Look at this rates. Contraceptive use.
Totally.
Abortion.
Look
in the early 70s and look at the rates. They start skyrocketing, and they are hand in hand. There's actually not proof that contraceptive use and the making of contraceptives more available to women actually lowers abortion, because it actually encourages more risky behavior, because you're like, hey, I don't want to marry you, and I don't want to have a kid with you, but I guess I'll have sex with you because I'm bored tonight, nothing's good on TV, and I have this great contraceptive device, which is going to make it so I have consequence-free sex, which we know is impossible. Right. So I think it actually lowers inhibitions there, and has people kind of duped into believing that they're protected when they're really not. And so I think you look at the state policies, and you can actually see it's state pro-life laws that reduce abortion. Dr. Michael New, on episode 2 of this season. So I know this is like a special episode, but this season of Explicitly Pro-Life 101, Dr. New, he's a researcher, a professor at Catholic University of America. I think I geeked out. The episode was really long because I kept asking him all these questions because he is like the foremost researcher on the effect of laws and how they save lives. Right. And he actually has them like ranked, like, parental consent saves more lives than parental notification. But the law that you can pass in your state that saves the most lives is banning state Medicaid funding from paying for abortions. Because once you take away the money, it lowers abortions. That's why we're fighting so hard against Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's promise of taxpayer-funded abortions in all 9 months of pregnancy. So a lot of this it's not about the Democratic president. It's not the presidency. It's actually what happens at the state legislature. Right. And that's where you see a lot of these abortion rates start to fall. It's even Snopes had an article discrediting the theory that abortion rates rise or fall based on the Oval Office. It's really about the states, and then it's about the Supreme Court and how the Supreme Court interprets those state laws when the ACLU and Planned Parenthood go and sue to stop them from taking effect. That's what it's really about.
I would add to that too. I think in general, we're seeing that abortion numbers, according to national reports, according to, Guttmacher and whoever else, that abortion rates are going down. But I think what we're missing there is that chemical abortion rates are going up. Yeah. So, this is very complicated because, first and foremost, what we didn't mention is that most birth controls nowadays are actually abortifacients. So you might actually be having little mini abortions and you just don't realize it. But second of all, in terms of chemical abortion, there's not really a way for us to track these numbers. And we know that now, like in California,
national abortion reporting law, 0.
Exactly. And California, for example, California has no state reporting at all. So we have no idea what kind of numbers are coming out of California. And California now is also has chemical abortion pill on college campuses in their like medical clinics or whatever. They're not even clinics. They're not full service. They're just like health centers or whatever. So we know that women who might have had a surgical abortion at some point in time because chemical abortion wasn't available to them. We know that the abortion industry is pushing chemical abortion because they want to get to these women earlier. So not only are they doing it on college campuses, they're also doing it through telemedicine. This has been huge during COVID. Telemedicine, Planned Parenthood has made telemedicine a primary facet of their model. This was not the case 2 years ago. So we have to look at the way that the abortion industry is doing things and how they are modernizing. And this is where, as a pro-life movement, we got to keep up, and so I think that it's so easy to just look at numbers and how they have fluctuated relative to a Democratic president or a Republican president, which again, keep in mind, those things fluctuate. We've gone from Democrat to Republican in the last 4 presidencies. So I think we have to look at like all of the factors here. What are all of the other things that are happening that could potentially be contributing to these number changes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So don't someone tells you that, say that's absolute bull, and you can go to Students Life Action, our blog. It's a great article that Brenna, our online editor, wrote, and it goes through everything that you need to know to rebut that. And in fact, the chemical abortion, that's actually going to be an episode at the end of season 2. I'm doing an episode just on chemical abortion because that's something I really think our movement has kind of been slow in opposing and talking about. And the abortion industry knows that they're losing. They know that third trimester and second trimester abortions could be easily banned. And so they're trying to get all abortions in the first trimester. And they also know they can't convince abortionists to commit abortions. So they're trying to make it so, well, you're not actually going in and dismembering a human. You're just giving a woman a pill and checking to make sure the contents of her uterus has been emptied. So yeah, there's a lot we can talk about. I gotta go. I've gotta go get something to eat today, hopefully. But thank you so much, Mary Kate, for coming on and going through all these candidates and kind of walking us through the process for the Supreme Court confirmation, and I guess validating all of my opinions that you thought were right. You didn't offend me, so that was great.
That's what I'm here for,
I'll wait for the nasty comments that come in my email later. But hey, make sure you share this episode with pro-lifers, maybe pro-lifers who are on the fence about how to vote this election year, pro-lifers who are kind of confused about what the pro-life movement's response should be to this opening, this vacancy now in the Supreme Court. So make sure you share this episode. Make sure you subscribe to my podcast, Explicitly Pro-Life, anywhere you get your podcast, and make sure you rate it, because I'm kind of in a competition with another pro-life leader right now, and I'm still winning, but they're gaining on me, so I need more ratings. So, all right, bye guys.